is a medieval castle town situated at the top end of the Vale of Clwyd. Traditionally, it's been a market town. Farmers from all over the Vale would bring their animals to be sold in the mart. The town had an impressive railway station and was an important shopping centre for the surrounding area. But Denbigh was also the county town of Denbighshire and a magnet for important gentry families, and chosen as the site for two important institutions, the Howell School for Girls and the massive North Wales Asylum building. But in the 1880s, local government reorganisation brought new challenges to Denbigh town.
In 1889, the first county council elections were held. However, it was decided that the headquarters of Denbighshire County Council should be in Ruthin rather than in Denbigh. In the 20th century, Denbigh town would have to struggle to cope with this unexpected loss of status.
The town was predominantly Welsh-speaking, and Gwasg G, a prestigious Welsh language printing press, was situated in the centre. But the old Norman enclave's culture was still dominated by the English language. The overriding symbol of this was the castle on the town's skyline.
Used to go there to play quite a bit, but very few of us ever went inside, unless they went in over the walls, you see, you know? But the caretaker was always there, always there. If you wanted to go in, you had to pay.
Vestiges of the town's medieval past included a famous cockpit. Market Day was also an ancient tradition still held in the market square. Every week, farmers' wives would travel to town to sell their produce.
I'd have my basket with butter and eggs in. So we'd go to the market and find a place where you could stand and wait. Oh, you could be there for hours, you see, waiting to get your things sold.
For local boys, the weekly market day was a chance to get up to some mischief.
The farmers used to be there with their baskets selling apples and whatever there was, you know. When the farmers were there, the kids used to go around the back of them, and a young farmer would be talking to somebody and between his legs pinch the apples.
The town was situated on a busy mainline railway which linked Denbigh to the rest of Wales. It was also a thriving shopping centre with hundreds of family-owned establishments. However, in 1914, the First World War broke out. The town emptied of young men called up for king and country. But the war wasn't the exciting adventure that many had been promised.
I remember him coming home on leave once, and he cried his eyes out. It was a very cruel war, I believe. And I suppose he hated going back. Well, my mother, trying to persuade him, she didn't want to see him caught up with the military police, you know. Everybody knew what would happen. You'd be against the wall, you know what I mean? You know what that means, don't you?
But when the war ended, returning heroes weren't always made to feel welcome. People like Isaac Jones's brother.
He was severely gassed, mustard gas, and he was terribly disfigured when he come home. Lost all his hair. Well, when a person's been burned, you know what they look like. That's the same with him, you see. All his face, down his neck here. Quite a while before he would go out in daylight, you know. Yeah.
Lack of work was a big problem in Denbigh after the war, and the reading rooms in Lenton's Pool was a place that many unemployed could spend the day and read a free copy of a newspaper. However, for the many gentry families living in the wealthy Vale of Clwyd, life hadn't changed that much in the early 20s.
They had very big shooting parties. People from all sorts of other halls coming to shoot, of course. Just the big knobs, you know, they all came. It was quite a sight to see them turning out in the morning, you know, and all the keepers and all, but when they go with their guns, and we had to feed a lot of them too. It was quite exciting and hard work.
Many of these rich families sent their daughters to private schools. Denbigh had two, St Bridget's and the larger Howells School for girls, the twin school of Howells in Cardiff. It was established by a Welsh businessman's trust fund and run by the Drapers Company of London. Education there was privileged, and there were many important rituals, like the yearly speech day.
First of all, the Drapers would arrive from London, that's a contingent of them, by bus. They'd stayed at the Grosvenor Hotel in Chester and arrived by bus, and we all lined the drive and waved happily. And then we had lunch, and the girls led out down the steps, and then divided, two went each way, until we'd filled the whole of the steps of the amphitheatre. So speech day was quite exciting.
The pupils enjoyed many games and also had a swimming pool.
It was an open-air pool, and Miss Robinson would let us swim on Sundays after church. This was not very popular with some of the Denbigh folk. They didn't approve. And if they were walking up near the castle, they could see us.
For town girls on the outside looking in, it seemed like another world.
Oh yes, they had a swimming pool, yes, but it wasn't for the use of the Denbigh. I often used to go to Bryn Park, and we could see them in the swimming pool from there. Bryn Park was high, you could see them there.
There was work to be found at the large TB hospital at Llangwyfan, but the economic backbone of Denbigh was the enormous North Wales Asylum. It had over 1,500 beds and employed over 1,000 people. Staff there took great pride in their difficult work.
It was an asylum. It wasn't a hospital. It was an asylum. It was on our buttons, brass buttons, NWA, North Wales Asylum.
Security was very, very important. At that time, you carried your key in your pocket wherever you went, and you had to be sure to, after unlocking the door, to make sure that you locked it after you, wherever you went, didn't matter where.
Treatment for mental illness was in its infancy, and one new idea being tried out at the time was ECT, or electroconvulsive therapy.
It was very, very barbaric, with electrodes to the temple, soaked in saline water. They had to put a gag in between his teeth to make sure that he didn't bite his tongue. Then the electric switch was pressed, and he had an electric shock.
The bastion of Welsh culture in the town was Gwasg printing press. It published the famous Banner paper under the ownership of the renowned author, Dr. Kate Roberts. But Denbigh lived in the shadow of the castle, and the dominant cultural forces in the town were those of the British Empire, including the Girl Guides.
Guides from other areas would meet in the castle. It was another good time we had, and met quite a few guides. Oh, they used to have the usual pack songs. There's slopes in the castle, and there'd be groups in different areas, you know. The top of the castle ground was packed.
There was a renewed feeling of Welshness when the Eisteddfod arrived in 1939, to much excitement. But a few months after these images were shot, the Second World War broke out, and Denbigh was thrown head over heels into the war effort. The early 40s were a hectic time, with hundreds of soldiers encamped around the town. Every activity was organised to help the war effort, including one display by the Howells School for Girls.
The school took part in some gym displays, in fact presented two of them, one for War Weapons Week and one for Wings for Victory Week during the war, which were, you know, fundraisers for the forces, vaulting over the backs of people like a leapfrog back, and there were some simpler things with the smaller apparatus. We couldn't take the big apparatus like the box and the horse up there, but we did some exercises and things with benches. So on.
But despite the excitement, the war had a damaging effect on the Welsh language in Denbigh, as hundreds of evacuees arrived in the town to escape bombing in the large English cities.
Well, they didn't speak Welsh, did they? So we spoke English. And I suppose in school it was all English, wasn't it? So unless you were speaking Welsh at home, you soon lost your Welshness.
The war had been a busy but very difficult time. At the end of the war, Denbigh was hit by the incredible blizzards of 1947. And when the snow finally thawed out, Denbigh looked forward to a brighter future.